I want each of our panelists to introduce themselves, spend about 5 minutes telling us why they're on this panel, what their amazing product is, and maybe a little sneak peek at their vision for the future, although we're going to do that more in the questions as well.
It's called Droplabs, and what we really did was focus on kind of the area of haptics, which really introduces haptics into every day. So, and it really started with music instead of VR or gaming. And it really started from an inventor who really wanted to feel music in his body like he was at a concert. And he, with digital music, and I was in the consumer electronics and music business for a long time, you really miss the highs and the lows. So if you're wearing a pair of earbuds, you're going to miss at least 2 octaves on the top, 2 octaves on the bottom. And so he wanted that experience of, I want to feel the music in my body like I'm on stage. And when he was at a rehearsal studio, he stood on a spot on the floor, and there was a rehearsal. There was actually a band in the other room rehearsing. He said, "Oh my God, this is perfect. This is exactly what it feels like." And it was ground vibration. And so his whole thing was like, I'm going to take ground vibration, I'm going to put it into people's bodies. So I'm going to light up their sensory system. So they're not just going to hear music through their ears or listen to it, they're going to feel it through their entire body. And so a lot of these haptic companies, and sort of we all joke internally, it's like you go on a journey, right? You're teaching people about haptics, all the different applications. And so what we did along this journey, we started realizing, well, what happens when you add immersion or sensory to visuals, right? Video games, movies, VR. VR has probably been the one vertical that has driven haptics faster than anyone. They knew they needed presence. They also, what's interesting is they also knew that if you feel and you can align yourself within a 3-dimensional space, a lot of the early issues with nausea, you can compensate against. So we started really focusing on music and how do we create the energy of live music and put it in people's bodies. And through our journey, we realized that what happens when you do movies, obviously VR, gaming, when you can feel every explosion. We did everything from audio. We did not do force motion or tactile touch. It is about vibroacoustics and the experience of different frequencies in your body. And any of you who are developing products, you start to go down this journey and all these other use cases reveal themselves that you didn't even realize. So we started seeing that, when your brain gets 3 sensory inputs, I see it, I feel it, I hear it, it's synchronized and time aligned, it becomes stitching software. So really what this is doing, you're going into brain science and neuroscience. What happens when your brain gets this information? And so what's really happened for us as our journey is that obviously gaming is a big piece and a big push for us. And I say gaming and VR, it's all the same thing because it drives software development that much faster. But the other piece is actually health and human performance. So we found a lot of people are like, wow, when I can get these vibrations in my body and they're synchronized, I'm actually present. And presence is the holy grail for VR, but it's also the holy grail for mindfulness. And so when you are fully immersed in something, you are 100% in that moment. And so there's a lot of different applications that come into play. So this, I think all the people up here, what you're really doing is having a development platform and starting to understand all the potential use cases of this technology in all the different verticals. And a lot of it's from exposure to people who are trying it and demoing it and then asking, and then they're pushing what they want to do with it. So we started with footwear. And footwear, because the feet are kind of magic, the feet have a ton of mechanoreceptors that are actually designed to take this input. And those mechanoreceptors are tuned to the vibrational frequencies that you can feel, 20 to 150 hertz. So you're lighting up what's already in your body, and it's pretty powerful. So it's all haptic things. There's always the great A/B with haptics, with and without. And so that's where we are right now.
My name's Alex. I am community manager at bHaptics. We are of course, a wearable haptic company as well. Started in 2015 as a startup that primarily focused on the B2B aspect of the wearable haptics for like VR arcades and things like that. In the past year, the shift really has focused from the enterprise side to the consumer side, as there has been such a huge interest from consumer gamers and VR players, especially in the product. So this year, just before the new year, we launched a new product line, the TacSuit X40 and the TacSuit X16, which are both wearable vests that are targeted for consumer level, to be afforded by the consumer and to be compatible with the games that VR gamers today love. She touched a lot on like the science behind the haptics, and in VR, you're in this three-dimensional immersive space, and as a gamer, there's a lot of information that we're missing out on by not being able to basically extend our controller haptics to the rest of our body. For example, if you're in a first-person shooter and you're receiving incoming fire from your opponents, but right now, the only way to really know which direction you're getting that from without the use of haptics is maybe like a red indicator arrow or something that like is rotating at the top, but before you know it, you could have been taking damage for multiple seconds, and if you're a competitive gamer, you know that that's already too late. Well, with bHaptics, you can feel the input coming from 360 degrees, so if you're getting incoming fire from behind, you're alerted to that, and you're able to bring in so much more information as a result than you would have been able to without the use of haptics. So it's a wearable vest that you can just throw on over the clothes that you wear, and we are very excited about it, and I'm very excited to be here.
And let me ask you this. I noticed that in the input stuff for Altspace VR, we can have rumble and we can have another haptic thing. Is that compatible with the bHaptics suit?
So with Altspace, there is no current native compatibility, but the idea is to connect with developers, which we have done quite a bit of, to integrate the haptic responses natively. So it basically works just like a subtitle in a movie, where when the action happens in a game, for example, if you consume a healing item, then right at that moment, the game knows to trigger the haptic effect, and you'll get like a nice massaging feeling or something like that during it. We also have, with our new line of vests, the audio to haptic feedback ability, much like she was mentioning before, where it'll translate the audio into a haptic response that you can then adjust via the individual frequencies on the app that we have created. And finally, we have our modding community who take their favorite games and passionately integrate bHaptics themselves and make the mod available for download for our community to use. And the best examples of that are Half-Life Alyx and Population 1, which both have incredible, fully integrated haptic patterns, and it is a night and day experience. Once you've had the haptic experience in game, it is very, very hard to go back without it. And let's go ahead and pass it over to Joe.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Michaels. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at HaptX. I described to someone earlier today the fact that we are one of those weird companies that is focused on one thing and one thing only, and it's like our life's mission right now, and that is to create the industry's most realistic touch feedback. When we first got into the industry, people said to us, if you go for consumers, which is what you want to do, because trust me, that's what we all want to do, is sit around with our technology, with our friends, doing cool things. But what people advised us was it becomes a little bit of a race to the bottom, because you've got to produce your product cheaply enough to attract large audience bases, and then you'll get people to develop for your technology. But in order to produce cheaply, you've got to cut features, and you find yourself in a race to the bottom. And we made a choice. We decided to go completely in the other direction, and we didn't care how long it took. We didn't care how expensive our product was going to be. We wanted to make the most realistic touch feedback technology. And at about the same time, they were writing Ready Player One, and we're seeing a lot of similarities in the vision. It's the kind of wearable you can put on, and the feedback is so realistic, it's difficult telling the difference between the virtual and the real. And the way that we do it is using microfluidics, or the way I like to think of it is pneumatics or compressed air. Most haptics people think of today are based on vibration. It's vibrotactile feedback. You get high frequency, low skin displacement. And the good thing is it's cheap to produce. The bad thing is it's not super realistic. it's symbolic feedback, the way that we think of it. We're very, we're very biased, but we think of it as symbolic feedback. As your hand is getting close to an object in VR and you're supposed to feel like you're touching it, it buzzes to sort of symbolize that you're there. What we think of it, when you're touching something, the way my real hand is touching a real controller in my room right now, when I'm touching that controller, my skin is being displaced as I come in contact with it. And so I think the genius of our founder and our engineers is they found a way to use compressed air to literally displace your skin the same way it gets displaced when it's touching a real object. That's an oversimplified way of explaining what we make, but we make a glove. Actually, we have a vision for the full body where you can enter a weight-bearing full-body exoskeleton and a full-body haptic suit, and you can simulate any feeling and any activity. And we've started work on that. But we decided to go for the hardest part first, which is the hands, where, those mechanoreceptors that Susan talked about in the feet, there are tons of them in the hands too, as you know. And so we decided to really try to tackle that. And we've launched over the past few years an early version of our product called HaptX Gloves. And we will be announcing after CES our first commercial product, which I couldn't be more excited about. That will be the first HaptX Gloves product that you can own. It is unfortunately not priced for consumers or games. It's priced for enterprise and military, government, and industrial use. But we've been testing it in Asia, in Europe, in the US for the last 2 years, and people love it. It is, you get 130 individual points of tactile feedback on each hand. That's on the front of the hand. You get 5 to 8 pounds of resistive force on the back of the hand. That's the force feedback. And you have a magnetic motion tracking system attached to every finger that gives you sub-millimeter precision when it comes to the tracking of your fingertips. So that's industrial grade haptics for enterprise, and we're excited about it.
My name is Javan. I actually am CEO of Mictic. It's a wearable device. It's essentially a wristband, but the sensors could be anything. The way we're are branding it, of course, is as wristbands. So in a nutshell, what's really you can do is play individual instruments. It could be any instrument such as guitar, drums, piano, with really precision and accuracy, as I had never witnessed before, hence why I really wanted to be part of the organization. I was fortunate enough to, accept the CEO position. Aside from that, what we wanted to do was enhance the experience, and so we've created genre-based soundscapes. In other words, you could be a hip-hop artist or an electronic, music, any EDM or a rock, to where you have this 360 experience in front of you. And we map sounds. So, for example, 4 o'clock would be where your synth is. At 6 o'clock is where you can actually trigger your drums, and you can kind of circle back 180 and trigger different sounds there. And it's a really cool experience. I wish I could show it in this virtual room, but we certainly have a lot of videos with it. And some of the technology is similar to what Matt was saying too. It's accelerometer, gyroscope, we use magnometers, and I guess our secret sauce is the way we convert audio and our sound mapping to where we can actually place it in this kind of a position in front of you, again based on your dimensions of your body and where you're located. So, and ultimately all you need is the wristbands, any smartphone, and you can Bluetooth it if you want to, a better speaker. Performers can do it on stage. You can go directly to your phone. So it could be the first time person who wants to just who wants to be a rock star, or you can actually be a professional musician and really take it to a different level. So there's all sorts of different again dimensions and levels of the actual product. And last but not least, we've added some although we don't brand it as much, there's naturally some games in it as well. So in other words, you can be a race car driver, if you can be a tennis player, you can actually be a transformer and again based on the movement of the actual product and kind of the axis in front of you. So again, it's a ton of fun. I mean, we have a blast within our office. We trying to come up with different sounds and things like that. And in conclusion, we have our own sound design team and musicians really that composers that create these experiences. But part of the evolution of the product is really open up API and work with really individual really everyday musicians or your professional musicians to where we can actually get their stem files, really program it into the product so you can actually play a Taylor Swift song with the Mictic device and actually perform it. You can trigger it, her voice, her drums, guitars, whatever instruments. So there's a lot of different things that we're doing with professional musicians as well too, with Universal Music Group and things like that, just to see where we can push the boundaries of the technology.
Anybody been using it with TikTok yet?
Great question. We actually added.
Seems natural.
It totally does, especially during pandemic, right? We have the co-founder of Triller, obviously TikTok's biggest competitor, but Los Angeles based, as an advisor. So we certainly see some opportunities there to allow users to create, share it, and show us how we can actually use the product. That's one of the biggest thing. I mean, we're a small team, so having others use the product and experience it and come back and basically show us what you can do with it is what we're hoping to kind of see in the process of our growth.
And it's a fairly affordable wearable too, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, we're gonna hit market with it at around $100. I'm actually overseas right now. That's my other excuse, by the way. It's midnight my time, so hence why the delays. But it essentially has Swiss ingenuity and Swiss engineering. I mean, as precise as it gets. But we, myself being from the States, from Southern California, I feel that it should be a global consumer product, and hence why connecting with the music industry in Los Angeles, it's a big part of our plan and strategy as we move forward.
Cool. So lots of interesting things that are coming down the pike for you guys to try this year. If we get back to in-person things, you'll actually maybe be able to put some of these things on, but some of them are going to be, at your doorstep, I'm sure, through your ordering online, and that's going to be fun. I loved the unboxing video of the Droplabs shoe. That was really fun to watch. So do go out and look at the videos for all of these companies because it is the future and it's coming soon. And I just want to say that, 25, 30 years ago, we didn't have these headsets. We didn't have anything but enterprise level VR equipment. So what you're seeing with the haptics stuff is they're at that bottom of the curve where we're going to have this stuff eventually. And the fact that companies like Joe's are working on the really hard problems. I mean, touch is not just one thing. Touch is many, many kinds of touch. Your fingertip touch, the feel of weight, temperature, the stroke of somebody on your arm, tapping on your back. There's so many different types of haptic feedback. I mean, we just heard Susan talk about the shoe where it's actually giving you feedback from the ground up. And all of these types of haptics are going to have some enrichment for the kinds of VR environments that we're going into in the future. So you're at the ground level here, and there's going to be so much. And I think it was really interesting that we've got Alex and Joe talking about suits and gloves for your hand, full body kinds of solutions to get you more immersed in the situation. But with Susan and Matt and Mershad, Javan, we've got music. We've got your body as a musical instrument now. This is a turning point, everybody. This is where the beginnings of our our physicality in the virtual start to become real. This is a very big watershed moment, and these are the people putting that together for you. So I don't know about you, but my haptic skin is tingling and full of goosebumps at the moment, because I just think there's so much we have to look forward to. Just like 30 years ago, we had the fact that we could all socially get into a virtual world with avatars that reflected our personalities. It's just all amazing what we've done in this amount of time. And I don't think it's going to take 30 years for the haptics to come in. I think we're going to see concerts with things like the Mictic and the shoes and all of the things that people are doing. There's going to be new performance opportunities. So I don't know if any of you want to pick up on any of that.
Of course, Jackie. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like, at least with bHaptics anyway, it's here. Like we're talking about like things to look forward to, but the bHaptics setup is commercially it's available for consumers right now. Like people can go on the website and order this thing, and there are VR games that are relevant today that are fully integrated with it. I do agree that it is suggestive, and it's suggestive in the same way that your controller haptics are. But when you're immersed and you are connected into this fully immersive visual environment, this 3D spatial audio environment, a little touch goes a long way, especially when you look down and something scratches your arm. When it connects the haptic moment right in that moment, your brain makes the connection. It doesn't need to be a claw, right? Like a realistic claw scraping across my arm isn't gonna help me in my immersive experience. I mean, I guess it would make it more immersive, but you see the point I'm trying to make. So I'm thinking that while we all have a lot to look forward to, especially with the stuff that Joe's creating, because that sounds absolutely amazing, there are available haptic experiences right now. Like we are here, folks. It is here.
Yeah, and do try them. So I'm going to let Matt talk about what he's doing at Bose, and then we'll let Javan talk about the cool Mictic thing, and we'll keep going from there.
Hi,
Matt.
I'm Matt Neutra, lead experience engineer at Bose, and I focus on business development and prototyping, and also connecting our products to experiences. And so some of you may know that we of course have headphones and out loud speakers, but we've also been working on wearables like Bose frames, which are a pair of glasses that have audio built into the frame, so it's an open air, an open ear headphone. And we also just released 2 days ago an open ear sport headphone that basically just hooks over your ear, but doesn't cover your ear. So you have basically headphone quality sound without blocking your ear canal. So it's truly augmented in the sense that you're hearing something that no one else can hear, but you can also hear the world. And in our Bose frames, we have sensors inside, a gyroscope, a compass, and an accelerometer that measure your head motion. So what we can do with that is not necessarily haptics, but what we can do is measure your body's movement and translate that into interface inputs. So for example, nodding your head yes to answer the phone, nodding your head no to hang up the phone, pressing and holding a button to look to the right to increase the volume, and pressing and holding a button and looking to the left to decrease the volume. And for some time we were experimenting with audio augmented reality, for lack of a better term, where you could use those sensors to pan the audio in the opposite direction that you turn your head, which essentially keeps the audio sticky in the world around you. So imagine having, a drummer to your left and a guitarist to your right and a vocalist in front of you. And if you turn to the left, you can turn your head towards the sound of the drummer. You can turn your head away from that. So, we've been experimenting with lots of things like that. And of course, Apple introduced head-tracked spatial audio in AirPods Pro about a month ago. And, Apple's on track to have about 90 million AirPods Pro by the end of the year in the market. So spatial audio as a functional experience is being brought to the forefront by companies like Apple today. And Sony 360, of course, announced at CES their spatial audio format. So, the work that we've been doing sort of behind the scenes and also in public as a beta for the last, 2 years, now is validated by companies like Apple and Sony. So it's a pretty exciting time for spatial audio.
About
Yeah.
time. That's what I
Yeah,
gotta say.
exactly.
Yeah, we've needed that, and it really does enrich VR in so many
Yeah.
ways. And and we're talking not just about haptics here, but wearables in general. And many of the wearables do give us some haptic stuff because of the sound.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's different kinds of audio. There's obviously open ear audio, which is what we're doing, and there are companies who have done, bone conduction audio, which is in a sense a haptic kind of experience. So yeah, there's lots of parallels there. So the interesting thing about wearables, whether they're haptic or audio, is that it's all sensory input, and it's interesting to see wearables sort of venture into the senses as opposed to just visual experiences or audio-visual experiences. Having, there are lots of folks doing interesting work in location-based experiences that include also smell. So, all these senses are being tickled right now in these physical digital experiences.
I'll pose a question for people to start thinking about. Now, if we put all of these wonderful devices on and say we even have smell and things that give us a full body sensory experience, how long do you think it's going to be before those things kind of get integrated and we don't have to, put on 16 different devices to get that full body sensory experience? Do you think that's 5, 10, 30 years away?
When you start talking about full body, what you really, and this is some of the experience we had at Droplabs, it's one thing to build all the technology, but the integration with soft goods, when there's complexities, like for us, right, we have different sizes, you've got body weight on something, and what you find is that you've got to get those groups up to the level of like the advanced electronics that you're doing. So there is a lot of work in advanced textiles, integrating fiber optics, lights, etc. They can be washable and flexible. You need flexible PCBs, flexible batteries. So there's stuff working with DARPA, with MIT, but from like actual commercialization of those technologies, that's at least 5 years away, where it can actually go into consumers. I think that's when you start to see this stuff integrated, where they no longer become accessories, but they're fully, and they have to be designed and manufactured really in an integrated way. And by the way, the manufacturing processes couldn't be more different. Once you're in soft goods, you are cut and sew and you are glue in ovens. You're not 3D robotics.
Yeah.
Now, advanced textiles are starting to do like robotic printing. And again, you're just on the forefront. So my guess says it's a minimum of 5 years before you see like fully integrated. When the manufacturing process is integrated, the product itself will be integrated. And then it'll be just really easy for the consumers.
Amazing. 5 years, I can wait. Anybody else want to weigh in on that question?
I can say that we sometimes joke at our company that our primary goal is to stay alive till 25. Because we really believe it's going to be another 4 or so years, until VR is not a fringe technology used by hobbyists and early adopters like the people in this room, but is integrated into your daily life as a productivity tool at work and ultimately as an entertainment and communications tool at home and gaming tool at home. So will everything be? I mean, that was a wonderful point I think Susan made about how tough it is to make it consistent across technologies and platforms and easy for the consumer. It's going to take an Apple type company to probably to do that. In the meantime, there's going to be a balkanized, bunch of those of us who are trying to win and innovate in our space. And I'd be delighted even if we reach a difficult to use point where you can actually achieve these levels of immersion and realism, even with different technologies. And then some genius, hopefully someone who's standing in this room or your kids, will come up with a way to integrate it into an easy to use package.
Yeah. I'll echo. I'm not going to speculate on timeline, but I will say that we'll take a company like Apple, and the way I've been describing this to people is that there are sort of 3 legs of the stool for delivering immersion to people. The first is the content leg of the stool. The second leg of the stool is pipeline delivery platform, and then the third leg of the stool is hardware. And so what we're really talking about here is hardware, whether it be audio rendering devices like Bose does or haptic devices like some of you guys do. The company that's going to win, quote in air quotes, in this game will have prepared all three legs of the stool. And at the moment, Apple is the one company that's doing that at scale for visuals and audio. So think about they have access to content because Steve Jobs was able to bully, labels and movie companies to play with Apple. And then he built iTunes and he built Apple TV, and now they have Apple Fitness and Apple Arcade. And Apple Arcade's going to see immersive content, probably 2021, 22, when the Apple AR glasses come out. And I will say, there's a constant tension in the world of hardware and experiences because there are physiological limitations with VR and AR. With VR especially, you are asking your brain to feel like you're looking 40 feet away when your eyes are towed in, and the muscles of your eyes are actually looking 3 centimeters away. And so you're not going to get around that. And that's why, Evans and Sutherland and other folks did, cave systems that were head-worn device. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I think a company like Apple will be the one who at least breaks ground and moves the needle.
Yeah, they might be the first one that gives us the inspiration for others to follow and do it better. We should take a couple questions from the audience.
Me and my son, we were wondering, how can we invest in these companies? I want to invest.
That's a great question. I think that's a tough question. I mean, I know that Motley Fool has a service where they do AR VR companies, and it's not cheap, but that's one way to learn about companies that are positioned basically through their filter, what they think are companies that are viable and are in that space. Does that help?
You say Motley Fest?
Motley Fool. Motley.
Motley Fool.
Yeah.
Motley Fool. Thank you.
The other thing I would add is that the best time to invest in these companies at the level of a normal human being who's not Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or a private equity firm is early, at the earliest stages, at their seed stages, or their friends, especially their friend and family round. If you can find a company that you really admire who's doing a friends and family round, that'd be a terrific time for you to ask them if you can purchase some shares, because they'll be affordable and you can get a decent size of the portion of the company.
So a lot of the equity crowdfunding platforms that have come up, like WeFunder, Seed Invest, you'll see a lot of these emerging technologies on those platforms. That's a way to invest at a smaller level, have some participation and ownership in the company. So I would look at some of the equity crowdfunding platforms and see what is running there as well.
Yeah,
those are coming up. And another thing is Kickstarter campaigns, which you got to be a little careful because a lot of them don't come to fruition. But
yeah, I would stay away from Kickstarter, but I would say you can bet that if you invest a little bit of money in Apple, and you invest a little bit of money in Facebook, and you invest a little bit of money in Unity, these are companies, even though they're large companies, they're companies that are pouring unbelievable amounts of money into these technologies.
And I think what we'll do now is we'll close this one, and I'm not sure where the mixer is. Maybe somebody can tell me, but there's a little mixer, or there's all that marvelous hall space that's been built outside, so you can go and socialize and talk to people. Most of us will try and go out in that area too. Thank you all for coming and for being attentive throughout all of our fun little issues here. Thank the panelists for coming and giving their wisdom and their really interesting ideas and products to this group. And we're going to do this again next year at CES.